You need to implement AS9100. We'll guide you step by step. Let's continue building the procedure we started in part 1. Why does document control matter? Because uncontrolled information creates real operating failures. Someone uses an obsolete revision. A required field is left blank, or a local copy is mistaken for the current release. In part 2, you will build the controls that prevent those problems. Here is the path we will follow. We begin with the general requirements in section 8.1. Then we move through document identification, approval, creation, and revision, the general list of documents, distribution, cancellation, storage, and access. Each control remains connected to its clause, so you always know where it belongs in the procedure. Before we move forward, let's reconnect this lesson to part 1. We already created the controlled front page, revision history, purpose, scope, supporting documents, acronyms and definitions, and responsibilities. Now we begin section 8, where those foundations become practical operating rules. For each requirement, we will use the same simple method. First, write the rule. Next, show how it works. Then, verify the result. This approach helps you build the procedure while understanding why every control is there. You should never have to guess where an instruction belongs. Now let's look at the big picture. Section 8.1 establishes common rules for the entire quality management system documentation structure. The quality manual, process sheets, procedures, operating instructions, and controlled blank templates. Completed records are different. They provide evidence generated by the processes, and we will address them in part 3. We begin with requirement 8.1.1. Maintain all controlled quality management system documents electronically in one authorized repository. Why? Because employees should not have to search personal drives, old email attachments, or local folders to find the current procedure. The repository becomes the single reliable point of use. Completed records remain in their assigned process locations. Next, separate the editable source from the released read-only document. The editable source is protected because it is used to create future revisions. The released document is the authorized copy employees use. A red line shows what changed, while the approval record shows who authorized the release. Document control must ensure that the source and release document represent the same revision. Whenever possible, direct users to the current electronic release and avoid printed or locally saved copies. Every extra copy creates another opportunity for outdated information to remain in use. If a controlled hard copy is truly necessary, authorize it, identify its revision and recipient, and make sure the obsolete copy is withdrawn when the document changes. Now we reach requirement 8.1.3. One of the most valuable controls in this procedure. Number every field on a form consecutively. In this example, fields 1 through 5 identify the main columns. Field 6 identifies the last update date. Fields 7 and 8 control the historical updates. These numbers connect each field directly to the instruction explaining how it must be completed. Immediately after the form, add a section titled How to Compile this form. Use the same control numbers and explain what belongs in each field, the required format, and any applicable decision rule. For example, define whether the entry is a document or a process, how cancellation is identified, and how dates must be entered. A properly designed form should not require its creator to explain every box. With that principle established, let's standardize the document formats. Requirement 8.1.4 creates a controlled template library for the quality manual, process sheets, procedures, and operating instructions. This prevents every department from inventing a different structure. Controlled blank forms also follow approved templates, although their coding method will be covered in part 3. Requirement 8.1.5 defines the 6 controls in the document header. Number 1 identifies the organization. Number 2 provides the complete document title and applicable aerospace quality requirement. Number 3 is the document code. Number 4 is the revision. Number 5 is the issue date. Number 6 is the page number. Together, these controls allow every separated page to identify itself correctly. The revision history table answers 4 essential questions. Which released revision contains the change? What changed? When did it change, and who incorporated it? Numeric identifiers may be used while a draft is being developed, but released documents use revision letters. Preserve both the previous release and the red line so the change remains traceable. Now let's pause and review what we have built so far. At this point, the procedure establishes one controlled repository, controlled file states and copies, numbered form fields with matching instructions, a controlled template library, and complete header and revision history controls. Next, we will finish section 8.1 with template use, body formatting, and the ownership notice. Requirement 8.1.6 makes the controlled templates mandatory. They are not merely examples. When a process owner creates or revises a document, the work begins with the approved template for that document family. If the draft does not follow the controlled structure, it should not proceed to release. This gives the entire organization one recognizable documentation method. Next, Requirement 8.1.7 defines the preferred body style, Calibri body at 11 points. The specific font is an organizational decision, not a requirement imposed by the aerospace quality standard. What matters is consistency. By controlling the formatting through the templates, your documents remain readable, professional, and easier to maintain. Next is Requirement 8.1.8. It explains where the ownership or copyright notice belongs. Apply it to controlled documents and to blank controlled templates used for reference, governance, or distribution. Do not automatically place that notice on completed records. The controlled document defines the method. The completed record preserves the evidence. Now we move to Section 8.2, Identification of the documents. Each prefix identifies a document family. QMI identifies the quality manual. PRS identifies a process sheet. PRO identifies a procedure. OPR identifies an operating procedure. OIT identifies an operating instruction. These short, consistent codes make the system easy to recognize and scalable as the organization grows. Operating instructions use an additional parent-child relationship. For example, Operating Instruction 01.01 identifies the first operating instruction belonging to Procedure 01. The first number identifies the parent procedure, and the second identifies the instruction under it. Therefore, a code containing only the parent number would be incomplete in this system. Now we reach Section 8.3, where authority becomes clear. The quality manager is the process owner for the document control and records procedure, and owns the management of its controlled improvement. However, improvement input can come from anyone. Any employee may identify a problem or propose an improvement by following the procedure's change process and submitting the input to document control. Document control manages the revision package. The quality manager evaluates the input and manages any accepted improvement. The president approves the procedure, and document control then releases the approved revision. Requirement 8.3.2 explains when a document becomes valid. Simply saving a file in the repository does not make it controlled. The required review and approval must be recorded. Document control releases the approved read-only document, and the protected editable source must represent the same revision. Every content change creates a new revision and a corresponding revision history entry. Now let's put the complete improvement workflow together. Any employee may submit improvement input by following the procedure's change process. Document control receives the input, manages the code, revision status, and integrity of the revision package, and routes it to the quality manager. As process owner, the quality manager evaluates the input and owns the controlled improvement of the procedure. The president approves the procedure. Document control then release. Once documents are released, you need one reliable index. Requirements 8.5.1 and 8.5.2 establish the general list of documents. It identifies every current controlled document by code, title, revision date, process owner, and status. Document control updates the list whenever a document is created, revised, canceled, or replaced. Repository paths are not needed in this list. The next step is distribution. Requirement 8.6.1 connects distribution to the release notification established in Requirement 8.4.1. The notification tells affected users what changed, the current revision, the effective date, and where the authorized document can be found. Direct users to the controlled repository instead of circulating another attachment that may later become obsolete. Requirements 8.7.1 through 8.7.3 apply when an authorized controlled copy must exist outside normal repository use. Record the document title or code, revision, delivery date, recipient, and document control responsibility. When the revision changes, withdraw or dispose of the superseded copy using the approved method. Remember, this control applies to copies of requirements. It does not authorize the destruction. Now let's address cancellation. Under Requirement 8.8.1, the quality manager and document control manage the decision to cancel or replace a document. Remove active access, withdraw controlled copies, and transfer the canceled or superseded revision to the correct history folder. Then update the general list of documents and notify affected users. Current information remains easy to find, while previous revisions remain traceable. Section 8.9 defines storage and access. Begin with a repository structure that mirrors the document families: quality manual, process sheets, procedures, operating instructions, and forms. Each family may have its own history folder. A predictable structure makes controlled information easier to find and eliminates personal filing methods. Requirements 8.9.2 through 8.9.4 then control access and the specification libraries. Users need reliable read access to current releases, while revision, release, and administrative rights remain restricted by role. Keep external or industry specifications separate from internally developed engineering specifications. Document control manages both libraries, but their content and purpose are different. Before considering the method complete, test the entire lifecycle. Can a user find the current release without asking someone? Can document control show who approved it and confirm that the editable source matches? Can you trace a change, notify affected users, withdraw obsolete copies, and preserve the previous revision? If any answer is no, the procedure still contains a control gap. Look at what you have built through Section 8.9. The procedure now contains general requirements, document identification, approval authority, the creation and revision workflow, the general list of documents, distribution, cancellation, storage, and access. The operating instruction parent-child code is also complete. Form coding and record controls remain for Part 3, and the final table of contents should be generated only after. This completes Part 2 of Roadmap Step 2. The document control lifecycle is now defined through Section 8.9. Step 2 remains in progress because Part 3 will complete forms and records, retention, stamps, and signatures, forms pertaining to the procedure annexes, the final table of contents, and the verification test. When those controls pass, we can mark Step 2 accomplished. Part 2 is complete. In Part 3, we will finish forms, records, retention, annexes, and the final verification.